Welcome to our deep dive into the biggest tech stories of 2024.
That's right. We're going deep on what really mattered this past year.
And we're basing it all on the World Economic Forum's insights.
So get ready for some aha moments as we unpack 6 big areas:
Emerging tech AI space, the metaverse.
agritech and digital inclusion.
All topics shaping our world according to global experts.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with those top 10 emerging technologies.
Yeah, the forum's annual list. I'm always curious to see what makes the cut.
It always highlights the incredible pace of innovation.
Like this year, AI being used to accelerate scientific discovery.
Right. Imagine AI helping researchers develop life-saving drugs.
Or even design more efficient renewable energy systems.
That's really mind-blowing stuff.
Then there's the idea of using microbes to capture carbon from the atmosphere.
Yeah, it sounds futuristic, right?
A little bit like science fiction to me.
But the science, these microbes could be a game changer,
In the fight against climate change.
potentially helping us remove gigatons of carbon dioxide each year.
Powerful stuff. And how about those reconfigurable intelligent surfaces?
Ah, yes, those are fascinating.
The report mentions them, but honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around it.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine controlling how wireless signals bounce around a room.
Okay.
With these surfaces, we can manipulate radio waves,
Interesting.
create super fast internet connections, incredibly accurate location tracking.
So that's why the forum highlighted this as a top emerging trend,
Exactly. It could revolutionize how we connect to the internet.
even surpassing 5G in speed and reliability.
That's the potential.
Wow. So what's driving all this mind-blowing innovation?
It's a bunch of factors converging.
Yeah.
Advancements in computing power, the development of new materials.
And I imagine a deeper understanding of complex systems, too.
Exactly, in fields like biology and physics.
All coming together to create a perfect storm of technological progress.
Precisely.
And it feels like AI is right at the center of that storm.
Definitely, you can't go a day without hearing about it.
True, but beyond the hype, what are the real developments we should be paying attention to?
Well, one key thing is the focus on responsible AI development.
I'm glad to hear that.
The forum has established the AI Governance Alliance
Oh, right. I read about that.
to ensure ethical and safe use of AI.
It's not just about the tech, it's about the impact.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I'm particularly concerned about AI being used for disinformation.
Especially during elections.
Yes, those deepfakes are getting incredibly convincing.
It's a valid concern, and the AI Governance Alliance is addressing it.
So how can we mitigate this risk?
Well, one approach is developing AI systems that could detect deepfakes.
Interesting.
Another is educating the public on how to identify manipulated media.
I guess it's about creating a multi-layered approach then.
Exactly, combining technological solutions with public awareness.
Makes sense. The report also mentions a 360-degree governance approach to AI.
Right. Have you ever heard of that?
Honestly, it sounds a bit jargony to me.
It basically means considering the entire life cycle of AI, from development and deployment to its use and impact on society.
So it's a holistic approach.
Exactly, and it involves stakeholders from all sectors
Government, industry, academia.
and civil society
Yeah.
to make sure AI benefits humanity.
That's reassuring to hear. Now let's shift gears a bit
Sure.
to something that seems worlds away but is actually becoming more relevant to our lives.
What's that?
Space.
Ah, space.
I'm curious to go beyond the headlines about space tourism and billionaire-funded rockets.
Yeah, there's so much more to the space story than that.
Like what?
The global space economy is projected to reach $1.8 trillion by 2035.
1.8 trillion. That's not a typo.
Nope, and a lot of that growth will come from space tech that benefits us here on Earth.
Wow, so it's not all about those flashy headlines then.
Not at all. Can you think of some examples?
Well, I know Earth observation is one, right?
I have a prime example.
We often think of satellites as taking pretty pictures of our planet
Right, but the data they collect is invaluable.
for things like monitoring climate change.
Exactly, or predicting natural disasters and even managing agricultural resources.
I see. And how much of an impact can this have?
Earth observation alone has the potential to reduce greenhouse gases,
By how much?
2 gigatons annually.
Really? I had no idea it was that significant.
It's huge.
It seems like space exploration is becoming increasingly intertwined with climate action.
Absolutely, as access to space becomes more affordable.
And technologies continue to advance
We can expect even more innovative applications of space tech.
to address challenges here on Earth.
Precisely.
Speaking of innovation, let's bring the conversation back down to Earth literally
Okay.
and talk about the metaverse.
The metaverse.
I have to admit, I've had some awkward VR experiences.
I think we all have.
And I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the metaverse actually is and why it matters.
It's understandable to be skeptical. It's still early days.
Yeah, it feels very hyped up.
There's a lot of hype,
Yeah.
but it's more than just strapping on a headset.
So it's not just about virtual reality.
It's about blending the digital and physical in new ways.
Creating immersive experiences that transcend physical limitations.
Exactly.
Can you give me a more concrete example? I'm struggling to visualize it.
Sure, imagine attending a virtual conference,
Okay.
but you can network with colleagues from around the world, experience product demonstrations in 3D.
All without leaving my home.
Exactly. Or picture exploring a historical site through an immersive virtual tour.
That makes it much clearer how the metaverse is blurring the lines between physical and digital.
Exactly. And the report also talks about metaverse identity.
Oh, yeah. What does that mean?
Well, in the metaverse, our digital identities become just as important as our physical ones.
I can see that.
Think about how you express yourself online. Your avatars, your digital possessions, your online reputation.
It's all part of our digital footprint.
Exactly. All of these things contribute to your metaverse identity.
It's fascinating, but also a bit daunting.
It is something we're only just starting to explore.
Right. And while I see the potential, I'm concerned about increased social isolation.
That's a valid concern. How do we make sure these virtual worlds don't disconnect us from real-world interactions?
Right.
Well, it's about designing metaverse experiences that encourage collaboration and connection.
Rather than just passive consumption.
Exactly.
So finding the right balance between virtual and real will be key.
Absolutely, as the metaverse evolves.
Now, before our brains melt from all this future talk, let's get back down to earth, literally, and talk about something essential to our existence.
Let me guess, food.
You got it.
Food security it is.
With a growing population and climate change, it's one of the most pressing challenges.
Absolutely.
And the report highlights the importance of agritech.
Can you tell us more about what agritech entails?
I know it uses data and technology to improve food production, but I'd love to hear more.
It's about helping farmers grow more food more sustainably,
Oh, hey.
like using sensors and data to optimize crop yields.
Right. And developing climate-resilient crops.
Exactly, ones that can withstand drought and extreme temperatures.
I read about some cool examples in the report.
More of those.
Building AI databanks to predict crop yields and creating intelligent crop plans.
These tools are giving farmers more information.
So they can make better decisions about planting, irrigation, and pest control.
Exactly, ultimately increasing productivity while minimizing environmental impact.
Sounds like a win-win. How does all this tie back to the bigger issue of feeding a growing population sustainably?
Sustainability is key. Agritech isn't just about producing more food.
It's about producing it in a way that protects our planet.
Right, and ensures we can continue feeding a growing population for generations to come.
That's so important now while we're on global challenges. There's one we can't ignore.
What's that?
Digital inclusion. I was shocked to learn that nearly a third of the world is still offline.
It's a staggering statistic, isn't it?
In this day and age, it's mind-boggling.
It highlights the stark reality of the digital divide.
Being offline means being cut off from so much.
Education, healthcare, economic opportunities, even social participation.
It's a major barrier to opportunity.
The report mentions the forum's Edison Alliance.
I remember that. Can you tell us more about their work?
They're working to connect people to essential digital services.
In healthcare, education, and finance?
They're a great example of a collaborative effort to tackle digital inclusion.
And what kind of progress have they made?
They've actually exceeded their initial goal.
Wow, that's great.
They've connected over 1 billion people globally to these services.
That's incredible. But it also highlights how much work is left to do.
Absolutely. Achieving true digital inclusion requires a multi-pronged approach.
Like what?
Expanding internet infrastructure,
Yeah.
making devices and data plans more affordable,
And providing digital literacy training.
so people can actually use the technology.
It sounds like a daunting challenge, but one we can't ignore.
Definitely.
It's encouraging to see organizations like the Edison Alliance taking this on,
It shows that technology can be a force for good.
but only if it's accessible to everyone,
That's the key, creating a more equitable and accessible digital landscape.
where everyone can benefit from technology's opportunities.
Exactly. It's fascinating how interconnected all these global challenges are,
Right, like we've seen how space tech can help with climate change.
and how both agritech and digital inclusion are crucial for a sustainable future.
It's like a giant puzzle where all the pieces are linked.
Exactly.
And speaking of interconnectedness, I'm curious about your thoughts on the rise of the creator economy.
Oh, the creator economy. It's a really exciting trend.
It seems like everyone is starting a YouTube channel or a podcast these days.
Haha, it's true. but it's really democratizing entrepreneurship
Giving individuals the power to build their own brands and businesses.
in ways that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
Right. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, they've given creators a direct connection with their audience.
Bypassing those traditional gatekeepers.
And creating a whole new economic landscape.
It's amazing to see people turn their passions into actual businesses.
And it's not just limited to traditional creative fields either.
Right. It's happening in all sorts of niches.
From personal finance to coding tutorials, even sustainable living.
It's really a testament to the power of the internet.
To connect people and foster a sense of community.
And it's generating new jobs and revenue streams, too.
Contributing to economic growth in new and innovative ways.
Absolutely.
It's really fascinating to think about the long-term implications of all this.
Definitely.
Now, while we're on the topic of trends reshaping the digital landscape, we can't ignore the metaverse.
The metaverse, it's a term that's been generating a lot of buzz.
A lot of buzz, and I'm still trying to separate the hype from the reality.
It's understandable to be skeptical.
It does feel like there's a lot of hype.
There is. But at its core, the metaverse is about creating these immersive, interactive experiences.
Blending the digital and physical worlds in new ways.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. I remember when self-driving cars were the hot topic in tech.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like they've faded into the background a bit.
They haven't disappeared entirely.
So what happened?
I think the conversation has shifted.
In what way?
Well, instead of just focusing on the technology itself, we're grappling with the wider societal impact.
Ah, I see.
Like what happens to truck drivers or taxi drivers when autonomous vehicles become common?
Right. Are those jobs just going to disappear?
That's one of the big questions.
And then there's the whole safety aspect, too.
How do we ensure these systems are truly safe and reliable?
And who's responsible if a self-driving car gets into an accident?
Those are some heavy ethical considerations.
It's no wonder the development has been slower than predicted.
It's a good reminder that technology doesn't exist in a vacuum.
We need to think about the bigger picture.
And be prepared for the changes these innovations bring.
That's a good point. Okay, back to the metaverse for a minute.
Okay.
Can you paint a picture of what a metaverse experience might actually look like in the near future?
Sure. Imagine attending a virtual concert.
Okay.
But you can interact with other fans from around the world, dance in the crowd, even buy virtual merch.
Wow, that's pretty immersive.
Or picture collaborating with colleagues on a project in a virtual workspace.
That feels as real as the physical office.
That's the idea.
It's really interesting to imagine how the metaverse could change so many things.
Entertainment, education, remote work, social interaction.
The possibilities seem endless.
They do, but there are also challenges.
Like what?
Well, how do we ensure these virtual worlds are inclusive and accessible to everyone?
Right, not just those who can afford the latest gadgets.
Exactly. One way is to prioritize open and interoperable platforms.
That are accessible on a variety of devices.
Including those that are more affordable.
So finding the right balance between innovation and accessibility will be key.
Absolutely. And it's not just about access to technology.
What else?
It's also about creating welcoming virtual environments.
Where everyone feels safe and respected.
Regardless of their background or identity.
It's about building an inclusive metaverse.
Exactly.
Okay, now before we get too lost in the virtual world, let's bring it back down to earth and talk about something fundamental.
Food, I'm guessing.
You got it? Food security with a growing global population and climate change?
It's one of the most pressing challenges we face.
And the report really highlights the importance of agritech.
Using data and technology to improve food production.
Can you give us some specific examples of how agritech is being used to address these concerns?
Well, precision agriculture is a good one.
Precision agriculture, what's that?
It's using sensors and data analytics to help farmers.
Okay.
They can monitor crop health, soil conditions, and weather patterns in real time.
So it's about giving farmers more information to make better decisions.
Exactly, about irrigation, fertilization, pest control.
To increase yields and reduce water usage.
And minimize the use of pesticides.
It sounds really efficient.
It is, and I find vertical farming really fascinating too.
Vertical farming? What's that?
It's growing crops in vertically stacked layers, often indoors in controlled environments.
That sounds futuristic.
It is.
Yeah.
But it uses less water and land than traditional farming.
So it's more sustainable.
And especially efficient for urban areas.
Are there any other innovative approaches to food production on the horizon?
Definitely cellular agriculture is one to watch.
Cellular agriculture? I've never heard of that.
It's about producing animal products like meat and dairy.
Okay.
But directly from animal cells without raising and slaughtering animals.
Wow, that could really revolutionize the food industry.
It has the potential to reduce our reliance on traditional animal agriculture.
Which is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions.
Exactly. So we're potentially talking about a future where we can enjoy things like burgers and milk.
Without the environmental impact.
That's the idea. Cellular agriculture is still early stage.
But it sounds really promising.
It has huge potential to change how we produce and consume food.
Making it more sustainable, ethical, and accessible.
Exactly.
Now let's shift gears to another crucial issue that's often overlooked.
What's that?
Digital inclusion.
Ah, yes, digital inclusion.
It's shocking that nearly a third of the population still lacks internet access.
It really is. In today's world, being offline means being cut off from so much.
It limits access to education, healthcare, economic opportunities.
And even just basic social participation.
So what are some key strategies for addressing this digital divide?
Well, it requires a multifaceted approach.
Like, what are some specific things we can do?
Expanding internet infrastructure is crucial, especially in rural and underserved communities.
Makes sense. We need to make sure everyone can get online.
And then we need to make devices and internet access more affordable.
For low-income households.
Exactly. And digital literacy programs are also essential.
To teach people how to use the technology effectively.
It's about empowering people to navigate the online world.
It sounds like a daunting challenge.
It is, but we can't ignore it.
Digital inclusion is about more than just access to technology.
It's about empowering people, fostering development, and building a more equitable society.
It's inspiring to see organizations like the Edison Alliance working on this.
They're doing great work, but it requires a collective effort to really bridge the divide.
Governments, businesses, nonprofit organizations, individuals, everyone has a role to play.
We all need to work together to create a more digitally inclusive world.
So that everyone has the opportunity to thrive in the digital age.
Exactly.
Wow, it's amazing how much ground we've covered.
I know, right? From emerging technologies to digital inclusion.
It really paints a picture of this ever-evolving tech landscape.
And its impact on our world.
But there's one more topic I want to touch on.
Oh, yeah.
One that seems to be on everyone's lips these days. Web3.
Ah, Web3, the term that's often shrouded in hype and jargon.
Exactly, but what does it actually mean?
At its core, Web3 is a vision for a more decentralized internet.
Okay, so not controlled by those big tech giants anymore.
That's the idea, built on blockchain tech, emphasizing user ownership and control.
So shifting power back to the users.
Exactly, instead of relying on centralized platforms.
Controlled by a handful of companies.
Web3 wants users to have more control.
Control over their data, their digital identities, their online experiences.
A pretty revolutionary concept.
I can see that, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on the specifics. Can you give me some concrete examples of how Web3 might change things?
Imagine a social media platform where users own their data and content.
Okay.
And algorithms are transparent and accountable to the community.
That would be a big change.
Or picture a decentralized financial system.
Where individuals can lend and borrow money without going through banks.
Exactly. Potentially lowering cost and increasing access to financial services.
Those are some compelling examples. What are the key technologies driving this?
Well, blockchain technology is at the heart of Web3.
Blockchain, right?
It's a distributed ledger that allows for secure and transparent transactions.
Without needing a central authority.
And cryptocurrencies are another key component.
Providing a way to transfer value online.
In a decentralized manner.
It sounds like Web3 could really disrupt a lot of industries.
It has that potential. Are you seeing any real-world applications yet?
That's what I'm wondering. Are there any Web3 applications already making waves?
We're seeing early examples popping up across different sectors.
Like what?
Decentralized finance, or DeFi, is gaining traction.
Offering alternatives to traditional banking.
Then there are non-fungible tokens, or NFTs.
NFTs, right? I've heard of those.
They're transforming the art world by allowing creators to sell digital assets.
Directly to collectors.
And we're seeing decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs.
DAOs, okay.
They're experimenting with new models of governance and community ownership.
It's fascinating to think about the possibilities.
It is, but there are challenges too.
Like what? What hurdles does Web3 need to overcome?
Scalability is a major one.
Meaning?
Current blockchain networks can be slow and expensive.
especially when handling lots of transactions.
Exactly. Security is another concern.
Because these systems could be vulnerable to hacks and exploits.
Right, and user adoption is key.
Web3 applications need to be user-friendly.
And accessible to a broad audience, not just the tech-savvy.
So it seems like there's still a long way to go before Web3 becomes mainstream.
It's definitely a journey, but it's worth watching closely.
Absolutely. Now, let's turn our attention to another important topic.
Sustainability.
Yes, with climate change and resource depletion.
We need to find new ways to live and work in harmony with our planet.
Sustainability is no longer just a buzzword.
It's an imperative for everyone.
With businesses, governments, and individuals.
And thankfully, we're seeing a growing movement towards sustainable practices.
Across all sectors.
So what are some promising innovations driving the sustainability revolution?
Well, renewable energy is a big one.
Solar and wind power.
Becoming increasingly competitive with fossil fuels.
And electric vehicles are gaining momentum too.
Reducing our reliance on oil and gas.
And what about those circular economy models I keep hearing about?
Those are gaining traction too.
Emphasizing reducing waste and reusing resources.
Exactly. It's encouraging to see businesses embrace these practices.
It seems like they're realizing that sustainability is good for business.
It is. Consumers are demanding eco-friendly products. And investors are prioritizing companies with strong environmental and social governance.
It's becoming a key factor.
And technology seems to be playing a big role in enabling these solutions.
Absolutely. Things like smart grids, optimizing energy distribution,
Precision agriculture, minimizing water and fertilizer use.
and green building materials reducing the environmental impact of construction.
Technology really can be a powerful tool for creating a more sustainable world.
It really can.
It's inspiring to see how technology and innovation are tackling these challenges.
They're at a pivotal moment.
The choices we make today will have a huge impact on the future.
The future is not something that just happens to us.
It's something we create.
Through our actions, our innovations, our commitment to a better world.
That's a great way to put it. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the top tech trends of 2024, I want to thank you for sharing your insights and expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been an enlightening journey, and I feel better equipped to navigate this complex tech landscape.
I'm glad to hear that, and to our listeners.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration.
Remember, the future is not something to be feared.
It's something to be embraced.
With curiosity, a critical eye, and a sense of optimism.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious about the world around you.
That's the key.